You want a giant steak?
Let's just like eat
That's
like
steak.
food while we're podcasting.
I have often thought about that.
It would be so inappropriate.
The worst thing is actually noise like this. I don't know if you've listened to podcasts where people are drinking or clicking.
I haven't really been good about listening to my own podcast. So
you gonna listen to this one?
I need to. I don't think I listened to the one with Eric Rhodes. It's just like I'm there for it.
Eric.
I'm there for it. So
You're there for it. Well,
I actually just started getting into podcasts, and I'm loving the survival podcasts.
all right.
Oh, those are like great on those like 9-hour drives to Taos.
Yeah, there's a couple out there that are really good.
The early ones aren't as good as the new ones.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've never
I've noticed
listened.
that.
What is that one?
Podcasts?
No, I know what a podcast
Oh,
is.
sorry.
I know what a podcast is.
What is it on?
No, what is it on?
What my podcast subject of choice is? Or?
The one that was a survival one.
Oh, yeah. There's a couple of them. There's
Is that what it says?
Outsider Magazine does one. And there's one like, now I can't think of them.
But is it about surviving?
Yeah, it's they're all like adventure survival stories. You know,
Real
like,
stories.
Yeah, real stories.
Are
like
they scripted?
They are scripted, I think, a little bit. They do also do impromptu, so it's not like live like this. Yeah, no, not that exciting.
I'm more of a Mark
but,
Maron kind of guy.
But I love the stories of like, you know, people doing things I'm not bold enough to do, like, we're going hiking on Everest, and then this is the story that happened, and most everyone survives, so it's like happy endings.
And everybody wants to hear the story of an artist, how they become an artist, which is really, I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
People that listen to this, and you have an interesting story because you're not only an artist, but you also have your own gallery. It's more of a studio now, but you ran a serious gallery for how many years did you do that?
I'm flattered you say that. A long time.
Yes.
I did it a long time.
Like 10 years, 12 years?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I should be counting the years, but maybe about 12. It could be more than 12 years.
Yeah.
It could be like 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because I remember, at least I remember when it came in on Scottsdale Road. It was on whatever Main Street.
Yeah, I used to be down on the other end of Main Street, and then I kind of moved to the good side of Main Street.
Yeah, you got a good location there.
The location's awesome. I mean, there's a lot of pressure. Like, I think at the time I moved into the galleries because I think the galleries that represented me at the time were like not ideal. Like, I think they're very nefarious today for being just like, okay, who had the train wreck story of gallery representation?
Oh, you had some of those.
Too many, I think. And I was like, well, this is the only thing I can do to actually like survive this business and stay in it would be to open my own place. And I think that saved me. I don't know how I would have moved forward in art without it. Because like sometimes you just have to have faith in yourself if you can't get it from, others. And then you build and you get better. And then okay, now how do you move forward into the next stage of art? How do you keep going forward? And you can't always just do the same thing forever.
No, nor should you. By the way, we should let the people know Amery Bohling is on our podcast. We have begun the podcast, but you have to move forward. I agree.
You have to keep changing. You can't get in that rut. It feels safe and comfortable, but it's a lot scarier if you don't push out of it.
And so, how do you push out of it? What are you pushing right now?
I think. For me, is doing things that kind of scare you a bit. Like you feel like you shouldn't be doing it. Like, you also have to be smart enough to listen to advice when it comes from people who know more than you. And I think it's, artists are, a lot of us have healthy egos because if someone kicked us, we'd never get back up again. We have to be able to tell ourselves like, it's okay. You're going to keep painting. You're going to keep doing this.
Right.
But then, someone might come along and say, have you tried this? Or maybe you need to go in that direction. And sometimes you just have to say, they have a point here. I mean, you want to take criticism from people who know what they're talking about, of course. But
is that artists that you
other
listen
artists,
to?
yeah. I've gotten a lot of, great advice from other artists, either from taking workshops or just being friends with them. Nowadays, it's a lot of the people who I'm friends with and network with who say,
yeah, because you teach at workshops now.
I do teach
at the Scottsdale Art.
Not as much as some do, but I like being involved in that school because I feel like I learned so much from them, like how to be in this business, how to approach magazines and galleries, just from teachers I've taken classes with. And I'm sure it's nice to pass on all of that information I've learned.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this?
I mean, I've always been an artist, even when I was a kid. That was
let's
like,
start there.
That was my identity.
When you were like in grade school or even before?
I don't remember a time I wasn't labeled the artist in my class. So that was always me. I was like the kid who scribbled over everything and playing. And that was my favorite pastime.
Did you win any little awards or things or notifications?
Not as much as I thought I should have won. There was always one other kid who was better than me. I remember in school there was Octavio de Villa.
Yeah.
And he was like this really good, like accurate pencil drawer, and he always won the prizes over me. And so
still seems like a sore point for you.
No, but we were all good friends.
Where are you?
We were all good friends, so it was okay. But it was like, of course, like, can I get it one time? Mostly state fair competitions.
Okay, so you were really competing right off the crack.
I mean, at the local state fair, and I only got honorable mention.
Yeah, but how old are you? You're like in grade school?
Throughout high school. I did it throughout high school, and then I think the biggest achievement in my kid years was like the Elks Lodge would do an art competition for the city, and if you won, you got to go to their dinner one night. I felt very fancy.
And you won?
No. I was nominated for an award. I did not get first place, just good enough to go.
Yeah.
So,
but
I never won.
But those are things that obviously motivated you.
It does, doesn't it, though?
Yeah. I mean, it does for some people.
I'm going to get it one year. Get it one year.
And what were your folks? Were they like, oh, yeah, she's all in, I want her to be?
Oh, my parents were amazing. You got those, I feel for those who probably don't always have supportive parents, because art is such a hard job to get into, because you're not making any money right off the bat. Nobody knows who you are.
Right.
You're probably drawing something ridiculous because you don't know beans. And Lord, I do some super dumb stuff because I'm like, this is what's going to sell. And I had it all wrong. But my parents were always supportive throughout the whole thing, and I'm so grateful. They work in developmental disabilities and aging. So very different industry than me.
Yeah, but very empathetic people.
Very empathetic. My sister works in the same business too. Wow. So they do really well with what they've done, and I think they've made lives better for a lot of people. So
I'm sure.
I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
great.
So they said, yes, Amery, this is your
path. We support you. And I've had artists in my family that probably never really got to pursue it just through life or circumstances.
Like parents,
My
grandparents?
grandmother was an illustrator for like fashion magazine, little newspaper clippings. So like before they had photos, someone would draw it out. So she did stuff like that. My dad was an art major, and he's a brilliant woodworker. So like the stuff he can do.
So he was an artist.
He was an artist, yeah. And on my mom's side, my aunt is an artist. She does a lot with ceramics. And my uncle was a really good, carver and whittler. So it's
all there.
But I probably took it the furthest because I'm like...
Well, clearly.
Yeah. They all did it great. My aunt's probably also more active in the art scene than a lot of our other family members were.
So you're guaranteed at an opening to have a half a dozen relatives show up.
Most of my family live in like Nebraska or the East Coast, so you'll see my parents there, but...
But you grew up in Arizona, right?
I grew up, we moved here when I was about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So I know Arizona best.
And you were in Scottsdale area?
Phoenix, kind of by Roadrunner Park and Paradise Valley, what is it? There's a town in the city, I think. It's like 32nd Street and...
I just know Tucson.
Yeah, I know. Well, I went to college here, so I love Tucson.
Yeah, so that was a shocker for all your friends. So you came down to the opposition, right, U of A?
Oh, no. I mean, I'm trying to think. A lot of my friends, I had some good friends that were a year behind me.
Right.
And they went to, I think, Flagstaff. And I didn't, like, keep a lot of my friends from high school. But I made a lot of good friends in college. So. And
they were art department kids?
No. I did have some art departments friends, yeah. But I'm not as in touch with, like, nowadays, like, one of my closest friends I met my freshman year at the dorms. And she was I thought she was the coolest person I know.
And so, but you did get
super
a degree
smart.
in art.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I still got a gen ed for like psychology just in case I had to go back. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to pass math again 10 years from now. I'm not that smart. So
at least not in that area.
But then I took all the
smart.
credits.
It's just not that, maybe that area.
And in the educational
gallery,
system, no one cares if you're like a great drawer. All their energies and efforts go to the one who aced the math test and write perfectly. I mean, my art teacher was like, "Good for you." I'm like, but that was the end. There's no valedictorian for Amery because she's good at art.
So that's okay, though. That's a different kind of skill set. I think it's a skill set that people...
It's valuable.
It's more than valuable. Yeah. It's actually more than valuable. It's what, it's all about emotion and creativity and it makes the world better. And I mean...
And we represent society as we are in this time. And I think that's... Like historically, there's something significant. I'm like, don't we look back at all the art,
right?
Yeah,
Sistine Chapel,
These beautiful.
Starry
we
Night,
don't care
whatever
that
it is.
Bob was good at math
so much. They don't care. They don't know. So I mean, being an artist, I think, is right up there with being a great mathematician or a great.
I wish
singer.
Schools supported it more.
Yeah, they should.
I don't think it's as valued as a necessary life skill.
Yet it's such a big business as well.
So,
I mean, think of the economy. Think about just Hermes and all the different brands that are luxury brands.
They need artists.
Those are all related to art, right?
I don't know why that is. And
architecture is related to art.
Or the assumption we're all going to be like crazy and poor and cut our ear off. It's like, oh.
No, just the crazy and poor part. Well, it can drive you a bit mad because it is such a hard profession. I mean,
and yet we love it.
You have to do it.
You have to love it too. I think most of the artists that you're going to find in Medicine Man Gallery or in these walls are going to be people who pushed and persevered through doubt.
I'd say all of them.
Yeah. Because you almost have to be. You have to say like, okay, the school isn't going to offer me classes for this, so I am going to go elsewhere and get training here. I'm going to do, you have to do what most people wouldn't do.
Yeah.
But then it's so rewarding because I think we have like dream jobs. I mean, this is me working, and I'm like, am I really working?
Yeah, you are.
It is, but it doesn't feel like it.
You really are working because you're not actually at your studio.
That does make me nervous.
Right? So, I mean, that's the work part, is that you're not being able to do what really produces you money. Does this make you money? I mean, it gets your brand out there. People hear about you. Just like it doesn't really make me money either.
It's all part of a bigger puzzle,
But it's part of the job. So, you're definitely absolutely working, in my opinion.
It's wonderful. Like, and I was just in Taos the other day, and like,
also
this is nice too. And I'm just taking pictures the whole way through. I'm like, I could paint that. I could paint that.
And is that why what brought you to Taos?
There is an art auction at the Santa Fe Art Museum. So I had a painting for sale in there. And
in the Santa Fe Art Auction. Oh, good.
It was a very nice event to go down to. I tried to be supportive, and
I don't really. Was it a new painting or?
It was a newer painting. I painted this summer, so pretty much everything is new nowadays. Yeah. New paintings. It's all new paintings.
Right.
So.
But now when you trained, you got your fine arts degree in the University of Arizona. Then you went to France, right?
Yeah, I did a study abroad. I think because that really good friend I mentioned, she actually was born in France, so she spent her time in both places. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's so cool. I'm going to do something interesting. And I think I can be anxious and a little shy, so it was forcing me out of my,
Did you want to force yourself out of that?
I think I have this inner desire to just hole up in a ball, and yet there's this other person inside me that just says, no, you're going out there and you're doing something. So it was a little scary because I think I was a junior, going my junior year, and I wasn't going over with anyone I knew, and honestly, I was terrible at French. So you go over there, you go on the plane, and you arrive, and there's a lot of people from different schools that all know each other because the schools are all going. I think there was 5 of us who came from Arizona. Right. And, you get on a bus and they're like, this is your new family for the next year. Right. But
it's a whole year?
I did an academic year.
Yeah.
So I wanted a longer one.
And it was to really focus on plein air more?
Well, the school I went to is called L'École Marchutes. So it was very small. It's like a one-room building. And kind of on the Rue de Tolonais, just outside the city. So it was a little bit it wasn't in the thick of things. So I did a lot of walking. And they loved, there was this artist, Leo Marchutz, that they were fans of. And he did more like kind of line drawings of figures. And they were also fans of Cezanne. So they really taught in that style, which I think I was too young to really appreciate. I was still under the guise that we should all just paint from photos. And I was big into pencil drawing and maybe watercoloring. And there was no photos, no artificial light. They all had the north light. The studio was painted gray. And we would pretty much every day drive out to Mont Saint-Victoire and paint outside. And I remember like my work was terrible. Like I had the first painting I did outside there was like, the teacher said, your palette looks like it could be a painting. And it's like, well, this is a painting. And I'm supposed to be this good artist, and I'm just terrible out here. And it was like, I wish I was, when you wish you knew what you know now when you were younger, whatever that.
Yeah.
I wish I did, because I'm like, oh my gosh, Amery, you were in Aix-en-Provence, you were in Mont Saint-Victoire, you did 2 weeks painting in Venice. You had like, the world was your oyster.
Right.
And I was like too young or whatever to like appreciate the moment.
Well, and you're also scared.
You're scared. I mean, I did do it. I did it, but it took a while. It took, I think I want to say like Joseph Mendez to get me out of the world of 100% relying on photography for your references. And he was a tough teacher. He would scare you into doing what he wanted, but I liked that because it forced me to learn faster.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, get out of that comfort zone. And you didn't want to make him mad because he would just stop coming around and helping you, but learned a lot from him.
And where did he teach?
These were classes he had at the Scottsdale Artist School. And I also took some of his own personal workshops he would teach in California. That's also where I first met Logan Hajej, because he was in Joseph Mendez's workshop too.
You guys must have been similar age, more or less.
I think I'm a little older than him. But yeah, we all kind of they were a little bit sooner than me in the California Art Club, when they did the mentor program. And it was the Southwest Art magazine came out with 21 to 31. And I remember going through the magazine and I would Glendine. I'm like, oh, Tucson, that's not far. So I think I called him up or emailed him how do I do what you just did? And his mom was super supportive. She was like, nice. Come down here and you can join the Tucson Plein Air Painters Society and you got to get involved with the California Art Club Mentor Program. And I went to California so I stayed on a boat so I can get stateship or whatever. I had to be living in California to join the club at the time. So that's how I got to be a member. I had a P.O. box and a small boat and paintings everywhere. And the sad thing is I didn't know how to sail. So it's not as cool as it sounds. It was just a waste of space. And
did you come out to Tucson at all to do that?
In that early day when I got to know them, I would drive to Tucson and go for their plein air paint outs. And they did that. They did a plein air painting show at the Tucson Art Museum. Yeah. Remember that? And I think that was really me just really getting into the art scene. So that was and they were very nice and supportive. So it was great. But I remember it's funny to think of these guys when they were so much younger. Jeremy just got married with Danielle. And I think we were at Glenn's house watching their wedding video or something. And it's oh my gosh, look how far they've all come. It's crazy to think about.
Well, that's what happens. It's life. You move forward, hopefully.
You're just a bunch of
you're out.
kids. And then it's also really good to see everyone stay in the business because you don't want anyone to leave. It's just come on, let's do it.
Most artists don't, I think,
Yeah.
They
every now and then. I mean, I think sometimes with girls, I've known some girls who kind of take a break when they have children or they pull back a bit.
Right. Did you find being a woman in the Western art area to have its challenges, let's say?
I mean, that's those are hard things to answer because you want to be positive and say no. But I mean, it's just part of reality. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's always that people are out to oh, she's a woman, make it harder for her.
I get it.
It's just, there is a lot of guys in this business and you're just not going to necessarily bond with them the same way guys are going to bond with each other. So I think there's that part. I think there was also a part with the terrible galleries that represented me was I was denied a solo show once because they thought I would get pregnant before it happened.
You've got to be kidding.
Yeah, and you're like, they say this doesn't happen because you get in and you're young. I'm like, no one will ever do that. And you're like, that's not in my plan right now. I'm not dating anyone.
How does it affect anything anyway?
He finally relented and let me have a show, but I had to do everything myself. My parents were pouring the wine, and I sent out the invitations and did all the press releases. And then, then it's like,
Yeah,
and that's,
why do I even have a gallery?
Yeah. Then people be like, how are you doing? And I'm like, great, if they'd only pay me.
Yeah.
That would be great. But, I mean, there are like little things, and like there's definitely like, are you going to try, girl artists, I don't think we get as many fans as the guys do. We don't have like groupies and stalkers the same way. So
interesting.
But I think there's always that.
Why do you think that is?
Maybe it's just the way women just fall in love with men and they're less scary. And if we get that, it's like, I'm moving to Arizona. I'm going to live next to you. And I'm like, nope, I'm good. And I felt like the guy artist would be like this beautiful woman with success. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm such a fan. I'm like, I want that.
Yeah.
So, but I think there's like the wives are like, sometimes they might worry that you're going to come and like steal their husbands, and they're not necessarily wrong. Of course, the people I knew were not that way, but
right.
I think getting married definitely helped with me. I think just because now I have someone like the guys can like chat with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It feels more balanced now. I've definitely noticed my career improve with that. And of course, like being a woman, you think about it. You're like, what do I make of that?
Yeah. Well, you do definitely have different challenges. There's no doubt about it. In the Western art world. I mean, I see it.
There's a lot of supportive people out there too. So it's not to say that it's not overcomeable or that it's just there.
I think it starts at the gallery, if you really want to know the truth. I think galleries need to be
good galleries
open to
everyone wants to be in, so they're harder to get into because we all want to be in that like nice like people who are fun to work with and are trustworthy, and we're just out to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my bad experience came from galleries that were just, they were good, like you would say, oh, that's a nice gallery, but they weren't good people. I mean, I've worked with great galleries before in the past too, so it's not to say they're all.
And you're working with us now. So.
Yeah. Which I'm like, it still blows me away, like just with now working with Parsons, how kind they are, and it's still like I can actually show up to the gallery one day and no one's trying to get me out the door because I might find a painting sold or something like that.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is so nice.
That's funny.
I'm like, do I have like some trauma from this? Like, I don't know.
Well, clearly, at some point you said, I'm going to open my own gallery because it's not working.
Yeah. And it was not like something I did is like, this is my forever plan. So I'm quite happy now to have it be more of a studio because for me, I'm not great at marketing and sales. Like, I just want to paint.
Yeah, you're a painter.
And I know I have to do it to some regard, but I learned a lot from having a gallery because I think I can appreciate more what gallery owners do.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I can also appreciate, what gallery owners I've had in the past didn't do.
Right.
So I'm smarter in that way.
Yes.
And I respect more. I'm like, I understand like how commissions work and why they're necessary. And you don't really necessarily make a lot of money as a gallery owner representing other artists. You have to work hard and hustle, and
right.
It's I don't know. It's like I feel like I could talk myself into a problem by.
Well, you did 10 to 12 years on your own as a gallerist.
And sometimes I represented other artists.
Yes.
And it's tricky. It's fascinating, but
well, I think it's really tricky for the artist gallery owner because somebody comes in and they're looking at two paintings.
Yeah.
One's yours, one's theirs. And you have to take off and say they're equal. I want to represent them both equally to try to help the client, not me or you or the artist. I mean, it's really, even as a gallerist, I find that I have to be very careful about that.
And I can see that. I think I don't, like, if I had that as a thing, I don't know if I recognized it. I'm not super self-aware. I think, like, in that regard, like, I'll probably just be painting if someone comes in, they'll be like, I don't really get up and be like, how may I help you? I'm just like, I'm painting, and they'll holler if they need something, and they'll be like, we want this Bill Kramer painting, and I'm like, super.
Yeah.
And I think part of me also wanted them in the gallery selling work. I think I had Robert Goldman for a little bit, and I wanted them in more than not selling their work. So if their work was selling, then I felt like I was doing pretty good.
Yeah, because you want to help the artists. I mean, that's...
Well, I don't know if I was... I felt like they were helping me more. But in my head, they made me look cool.
Oh, interesting. But for me, it's like...
I didn't make much money off of them.
We so want to help our artists because we know we're feeding their families.
Yes.
And, and in some cases might be the main source of all their income.
Yeah.
And if we don't
Which
sell,
is why,
then it's trouble for them.
Which is why, even when I had the other artist, it was important to me to okay, they sold a painting. You write them a check and you send it in the mail. And
that's right.
But then I remember there were other places who would be like, well, I think we need to use your money to pay for our expenses first.
Yeah, that should never
And then
happen.
we have more money later, we'll pay you.
Yeah, it's a classic of a bad gallerist.
Yeah, but then I remember thinking well, I don't understand if it was never... Sorry. Yeah. And I don't want to insult you because...
No.
Yeah, I truly do not believe this is your gallery. I've been in some other ones that are... You wouldn't be representing who you're representing.
Well, and you'd just be in trouble. Any gallery that's taking money to pay their expenses before paying their artists, that gallery's in trouble.
Yeah.
That gallery's going to go down at some point or another.
Well, and sometimes they were just people who were, expanding further than they could afford, we're opening more gallery spaces or running ads they couldn't afford.
Also in trouble.
Studying, instead of cutting things back.
Yeah.
And they, things I've learned.
Yeah.
So
for us, the big thing is before we pay an artist, is to make sure the painting stays. In other words, it doesn't come back.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
One. Yeah, because, they bring it back in 10 days and go.
Oh, no. Yeah, I changed my mind. Oh, gosh.
And now you own a $30,000 painting that because you paid too quickly. And you have return policies, right?
Yeah.
So at least we do.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we have.
I mean, not that I didn't. There was definitely one client, there was only happened once. They bought it during Norwalk and they brought it back 2 days later. And I'm like, okay. But now there was another lady who wanted to return a painting a year later. And I was like, no.
Yeah, we have those kind of things all the time too, but we can deal with those. But it's when they bring it back 2 weeks or 3 weeks later.
Of course,
and they're a good client.
No, that's reasonable.
So that's just good business to me. Make sure you pay, but pay appropriately so you're not, otherwise you can get in trouble. But it's true as a gallerist. It's interesting to see how many gallerists really are terrible business people.
There's such this these really wonderful gallery owners. And then there's where did they come from?
Yeah, well, usually I think what happens is they're undercapitalized. So galleries, do just what you said. They don't have enough money to pay the bank, to pay other things.
Yeah.
So an artist sells a piece. They use their money to pay their bills.
And sometimes that stuff happens. And then there's some that I think they're just there to take advantage of artists.
Well,
and
I know it's never happened to me, and I've been in this business for 32 years.
You've been in it too long.
So
I'm just grateful I'm painting well enough to be in galleries like yours. So that is my great achievement.
Yeah, you earn it. You didn't.
It takes time. And I learned that about having a gallery. It's because you'll have people that will come in and be like, I have some art.
All right.
I would like you to show it for me.
All right.
And I'm like, okay, do you have a website? Do you have a business card? Do you have an email address?
Right.
And there was this one gentleman who's like, no, I don't have any. I don't believe in any of those things. I'm like, well, how am I even going to contact you? And he had this one sculpture that fit in the palm of his hand. He wanted me to represent. I'm like, this is just so interesting.
Yeah.
But, you have to, and then, you have rent to pay and artists to support. So you need to make sure.
Employees, potentially.
Employees. And are you going to take down something will sell to put up something
right?
Maybe it'll sell. So I kind of understand the psychology. You want to take a risk, but I was more or less just a studio that sold her own works. But, things I thought about was that's an interesting thought to have as a gallery owner.
Yes.
How who do you take a chance on, and will it pay off?
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. As time goes on, you can take bigger chances on people not selling because you believe in their work. Mm-hmm. And you go, this person has it. It's going to be them.
Yeah.
And I believe in their work. I just have to give them the time to develop, as either as an artist or just develop. Or
even offering direction. Sometimes you can be like,
yeah,
this is great, but if you go like that.
Yeah, I try not to influence too much on that, Because I do, because I think I don't want to be that gallerist. I want to be the one that says, create, you're the artist, you come up with the ideas. I'll give you my input.
Yeah.
You want to know.
I mean, input's nice. Like, some galleries are like, maybe don't do the round frames or do the square frames. Or
Frames
like,
frames.
Really like the canyon works, or can you paint? Obviously, like, I'm definitely a type of artist that, like, if I really hate the idea, I'm like, it's just not going to work out.
No, it will never work out.
Like, we want you to paint sparkling coastal scenes with soft sandy beaches. I'm probably not going to paint that.
No.
It's not my personality.
And nor should you.
It would be weird. It wouldn't look very good.
I think it's incumbent upon the artist to draw lines, even when their gallerist pushes. And sometimes I've pushed, and the artist should, they need to know their boundaries and say, no, I can't do that. I don't want to do that.
But a little bit of, like, I've gotten some good advice from artists, like, hey, have you tried this idea? And if it feels like something that feels good to me, maybe that's what it is.
Because an art dealer, if I came up to you and said, I know I can sell every one of your paintings, but you have to put a horse in it.
Oh, how about a mule?
Or a mule.
I do mules.
And you might go with it a couple times, but if I kept saying, I need more mules in the thing, you're going to be, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that was...
I want to paint. That's not creating, that's production.
Yeah.
And that's different.
I think I remember those. I've had... For that, I think, I've talked about in other interviews, I worked at those places where they just mass produce art. Yeah. I was painting, like, sketchy showgirls, kind of.
Yeah.
In sepia colors, like Conte crayon and some glitter. And I remember that was my shtick. So I, each day I'd maybe do 20 of those or 10. Wow. And, like, I was running out of ideas. I'm like, I can't think of any more positions for these people.
Yes. And that was just to make money, right?
And... Well, it was like a job. Yeah. So, like, I had salary, or like I had, like, this, whatever it is you get paid. And, but this is what I made each time. And, like, I almost had to quit because I didn't have any other ideas. So I only lasted 6 months at that job.
It's amazing you can do it for 6 months.
But I was very proud of myself because I started as, like, a production assistant. So I was basically in the room, like, lacquering things and prepping canvas for the artist. And then I got promoted pretty quickly. So I ended up being an assistant one of the main guys' studios, and then I got my own desk to work on.
And how long was this? Was this after?
This was like right after college.
So right after college.
Yeah, my parents were like, you need a job.
And so you found a production job, basically.
It was an art job. And and then, I think at that time I was like, a lot of the artists in there were people who wanted to be doing art full time. It's like, you just got to do it because you could get stuck in there. And I don't even know if it's around anymore. But I think it's a nice place to go if you wanted to be an artist but didn't want to be totally on your own.
Right.
But, it has its pros and cons.
And so what did you do after that job? I
started painting full time and just learning how to paint. I think I had very small representation, and I look at my work then, I was like, oh gosh, it's like I would do these things of, like, I would get a photograph. And we didn't have digital media back then. It was just like a 35 millimeter print, like that big. And maybe you take 4 pictures and tape them together. And then I would match paint daubs to the photograph, which was, overexposed. There'd be a lot of black and white, and they looked awful. And they'd be like cheeky scenes of, like, girls running away in wedding dresses. I'm like, I didn't know what I wanted to paint then.
Yes.
They were just all, like, corny.
Yes.
And then I think, you just slowly start going to workshops, and then you meet, like, Mendez, and then, of course, I'm in Arizona, so there's a lot more Western influence, and a Scott Christensen workshop and Ray Roberts workshop.
Yeah,
and
all good.
Then they kind of, like, pull you out of this, like, high school vision of, well, I better go get a National Geographic if I want to be a real painter.
Right.
And I mean, I think a lot of us go through those stages as artists. Most of them. Yeah, and then.
Yeah. And so when did you discover the Grand Canyon? Because that's kind of a signature thing for you.
I went when I was really little, and I don't remember anything other than getting a geode. And I think, you're just a kid, so you just want to play.
Right.
And I went back later. I was coming back from a Scott Christensen class.
So you were revved up.
Yeah, I was revved up.
Right. I mean, you watched
I thought I had painting figured out, whatever.
Right.
And he was a great teacher. He was very good at saying, I think I was at that time self-conscious about, like, you have all these ambitions and goal for yourself that you're going to be in this show and you're going to be the youngest artist doing that, and it's not necessarily the path you're going to take. But I think he was preaching at that time to not be concerned with, what clique you're a part of or what you were doing. Just be yourself and paint. And
it's good advice.
I found that good advice, and I was coming back, and I had the limited palette, and that's what he was doing, teaching at the time. And there was the turnout for the North Rim on the way home from Wyoming, because it was a drive.
Right, I know that.
And it was like, actually, I had my dad in my car because he came with me. I don't think, or he was actually there for work, and he drove me home. I think it drove home with me from the class, but I think I can't remember if I drove out by myself or I don't remember. But it's like, oh, let's go to the North Rim. So we took the turn, and this was like October, and
beautiful there.
Of course we didn't know beans that apparently North Rim, it was the last day of it being open for the season.
Right.
And the North Rim's generally pretty booked. It's not always, you're not necessarily going to get a place if you just show up there, because you have to kind of make plans. And for some reason we got like the best room at the canyon.
Oh, wow.
Like overlooking like the rim right by the courtyard, the little plaza area you can sit in. And I did some paintings there, and I don't even know if I still have those sketches, but I only had like that evening in the morning to paint and take pictures, and it was like really, like I really enjoyed myself. And I got back, and I felt like it was something I shouldn't be painting because it's too hard to paint. Paint the canyon.
Right.
And I just did these paintings from my tiny little photos, and I think I put them in like back when I had a gallery out here. It was like Eric Firestone Gallery. And they sold really well. So of course that like motivates you to like paint more of these canyon scenes. And then I just kept going up there. I became enamored with this painting from Clark Hollings from, I think it was the Prix de West, where the mules are coming down the snow. And I was like, I'm going to find that spot and paint it. And I didn't know enough about the canyon, so I was just going to the Bright Angel Trailhead and waiting for this scene. I'm like, where is it? Like, it doesn't look like that. Like, how did you find this scene? Did you make it up? Like, I don't understand. Been at the wrong trailhead for like years. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to paint mules maybe coming up the snow to their corral, and then they cross the train tracks. So this was like in the winter, so I always waited for a storm to come, and then I would drive up then. There. And it was cold, and they were late, so I took like my car mat out, and I was just like painting and standing on that because my feet would get cold, and it was like kind of like a snowdrift, I think I was standing in, a lump. And then they came through, and someone took pity on me, I think, being cold out there. I said, here, this is the trail crew's phone number. So if you just reach out to him, they'll let you know when they're coming up, so you don't have to wait so long.
Right.
We became good friends. He now works at Saguaro National Park, Richie Jepfrich.
Oh, that's fun.
And he was very helpful in painting things like Trail Crew that did Arizona Highways magazine.
Yeah, you did the cover for
Arizona
Highways,
and that
right?
was some good friends of mine were in that photo. So I knew that was like the big day they were coming out of the Kaibab Trail, since it had been closed for repairs for so long. And so I would hike down to kind of like Cedar Ridge area. And
it had to be a big deal getting a cover of Arizona Highways.
I was in Mexico with my now husband was living in Cabo, so I would go down and visit him, and I got the phone call from Robert there, and I still give him a little bit of a hard time about it, because it's just like, oh, Amery, I'm really hoping that you would be willing to do a cover, and like he made it almost sound like somebody would actually say no to him.
Yeah.
Like, can you please do a cover, and then we can pay you a little bit. And you're like, I mean, well, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'll do it for free. I'm like, usually if you're in a magazine, you're like, okay, I paid ads for the past 12 years. Maybe I'll get a cover. And like, wait, you want me to do a cover? And I was so excited because this is a magazine that's in a grocery store.
Yeah.
Like my mom's like at the grocery store. I was like, I'll take 10 of these. So.
What year was that? Do you remember?
I think it was like 2017.
Yeah,
not that long. 2017.
Yeah.
I was like,
how many copies does your mom still have?
I don't know. I don't think I have enough. But yeah, I was like, and of course, every small achievement in art you have to revel in, because the next, you'd be like, I've made it. There's nowhere to go from here. I'm a success. I had the same thought for the 21 and 31 when I finally got into the 21-31 article, like back in the day. I don't remember. It was a while ago. And I was like, I've made it. I've accomplished everything as an artist. And then you're like, oh, there's still so much more to do.
Yeah.
The next day, you're like...
Yeah, what do you think there is? The things that you... so much more to do. What is that?
I mean, definitely, like, there's this weird, like, the perfect painting. That's definitely the first goal. Is like when you're like, you do something like, oh, this one's great. Yeah. I am so proud of myself. I love this painting. The eagle one, the Guardian painting for the Autry. I really love that painting. I'm proud of that one. And of course, then 2 days from then, you're like, well, I got to top that. That's not good enough. So there's always that. Like, it just keeps going. Like, if I got in this magazine, I'd feel like I've done a lot. And then, well, no, now I got to do something else. So it never ends. It's always something else. But that's part of the fun. I think I'd be bored if I was like, I'm done.
Yeah. And
I don't need to paint better anymore.
And every time you paint, I assume you're not quite satisfied enough with the outcome. It's like, that's good, but I could do better.
I mean, you definitely have that moment where you just like, enjoy it.
Yeah, when it's done.
Yeah. Or maybe somewhere in between. Because then I think with my latest painting, I was like very addicted to painting. I'm like, just want to get back in my studio. Just I can't wait to get to like there are parts of it I'm more excited about. And I feel like I can see that in other artists' work. I'm like, oh, he's having the most fun doing the water parts. Like the Colorado River part of the painting. I'm like, oh boy, I get to do this part today. Yeah. And then you got like, maybe another week of just gravel. And you're like, oh gosh, gravel. That's the downside of realism. Right. It's like gravel. So
nothing. So you're not a Josh Elliott who wants to put God, he does those little boulders and things so beautifully.
I know. I mean, I have a deep respect for like, Bill Anton and Elliott when they can just do like, say everything with one stroke, or even like how Lip King is just so like, and it's like beautiful. Yeah. I just can't paint that way. I've definitely tried. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be artistic and do this stuff. And, I was in like, I think I was before, I think where I'm going look-wise now, this feels more like me. And then, I mean, I've tried everything. And it's just like trying to see where you can merge. And I think I have this thing where it's like, it's tight. And then I'll come back in and, do some glazing and maybe some bravado strokes. So it's always kind of evolving.
Yeah, and some of your smaller ones have a nice loose feel to them as well.
It can be, yeah. I mean,
I like those actually.
But I know that my style as an artist is just, or like, it's like handwriting. There's just this innate
this is who I
look am. You just are, your brain is wired to do.
Right.
I think, and that if you fight that, and that was another thing I learned from like Christensen's thing is like you'll see, or his workshop was like you might see someone like Jeremy Lip King. I'm like, I wish I could paint a figure like that.
Yeah, good luck.
A head, and then. Maybe I think a lot of artists, it's tempting, like, I'm just going to start painting like Jeremy. And if I do this, I'm going to be successful and everything's going to be okay. It's less stressful. But then you're being someone else. And I think that's hard to maintain because it's not your style. It's not comfortable. And of course, the other thing he pointed out was that there's someone who thinks how you paint is amazing and special. It may not be you because you see it every day, but someone else does. So I try to keep that in mind.
That is very true.
Like, I don't paint like, Bill Anton and
very few people
Jeremy, a lot of them, but like someone likes how I paint, so that's good.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think that's important for an artist to remind yourself. Find that. For me, it's like the key in what I'm looking for is that original voice. So
it's hard to, even when you teach, you have students who are like, what is my identity as an artist? And like sometimes you just have to relax and let it come to you.
Right.
And sometimes you need some guidance from other people. So it's like it's kind of like a little bit of everything that can help you find out who you are as an artist.
I think they all struggle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, heck yeah, we struggle. Oh my gosh, that's like the nature of the game.
Yeah.
Am I too much like him? Am I unique? Oh my gosh. And then, of course, we're all like, in some ways, we're all just like, it's all been done before. So you could say like.
Pretty much.
Like where I was in Taos, I'm like, hollyhocks. I want to paint hollyhocks. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I paint a hollyhock, I'm going to look like I'm copying like Logan or everyone else who does hollyhocks. But I also see why they paint them because they're everywhere in Taos.
And they're beautiful. Sharp was doing them a long time before anybody else was.
But these are like thoughts as artists that you mull over in your head. Like, how do I be original? How do I not paint that's been done so much? And I don't know if you can completely help it. Everyone's going to paint Isis at the canyon.
Yeah.
You don't have ownership over it. It's
right. Or Spider Rock,
mm-hmm.
It's iconic, and it's
just that's going to be what happens.
But it's interesting, especially with Spider Rock, is no matter how many times it's done, if it's done by an artist with their own unique vision, it's always different.
That's true. I mean, you have an Ed Mel Spider Rock is going to be very different than Glenn Dean Spider Rock, even though it's the same subject. And
or a Stephen Datz or a Josh Gibson. I mean, they've all done it. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
They all.
And I wonder if when you get those artists who are I think of it the past when you have you might know this better than me. It's just a theory I have, and it's probably all wrong. Is that you get movements like Impressionism because someone painted in that style and everyone thought it was awesome and
it's true.
Mimicked it, and
Dixon
then we have something called Impressionism.
Yeah.
And
Dixon did it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
is that what maybe these trends, there's some people who you can tell are very inspired by Ed Mel.
Oh yeah.
Is that going to be the Mel movement? In
very, very
the future.
Might be.
Yeah.
I could see it for.
I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. I can approve that. So.
And there's a lot of room to do that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different interpretations.
How are you not inspired by everyone as an artist? I probably just talked myself in a circle here. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like a comic, right? I mean, every joke's been done. It's just how do you do it, right?
Yeah.
So the best comics are the ones who go deep dive into their own soul and their own trauma and all that stuff. And this is how I see it.
Put it on our canvas.
And then you do the same.
I do think for a lot of artists and us, art is a way of communicating.
Of course it is.
Because I think, maybe some of us aren't very good at communicating in other ways,
or that's
socially awkward, introverts.
Or that's just how you do it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can see it in art. I mean, I can see it when an artist is really in trouble or has problems. No, I can see it in what they choose to paint or how they choose to paint it.
Yeah, no, that's I've been, I think I had a heart, I was in a funk once and I painted a painting. I was like, oh, that's a very violent painting.
Yeah, right?
Okay. I keep that painting in the closet. It was just that one time I was frustrated. And,
oh, you should put that one out.
No.
No. I'd like to see an image of that one.
Oh, gosh. Maybe a private image I'll send you.
I'd love to see
an image. It's so ridiculous.
But all artists do that.
We have our paintings. I'm like, I can't believe I painted that. No one would recognize it as something I did, ever. It was like a tiger. It was a lion, oh my goodness.
Well, that's how you express yourself, right?
A lioness.
I mean, that's how you're talking. Your emotions are coming through your hands and through. I mean, that's right.
We like to expand our horizons and test different waters. Just not that we're going to commit to it. It's just sometimes it's fun to do something different, I guess, just to solve whatever issues going on in our heads.
Yes, I believe that.
And it might be infused into our works in some way later. If you ever see someone falling off the canyon, I'm in a rough place.
Oh, God. So, what's next for you? What's going on? I know you're going to be showing with us.
Yes.
And we've got a painting that's going to be coming up in our new show for our Dixon Museum, those who follow. Your first painting right into a museum show.
I know, I'm thinking I've got a lot of painting to do.
Yeah,
just
right?
Because it's very important to me that to have the galleries that represent me stocked with good stuff.
Right.
I think there was a time when I had too much representation and I don't think the quality was as good. So that's something I'm being mindful of.
Yeah, you have to be.
I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to shows and attending events because I think it's fun to get out and see friends. And I will be hanging out with you in New York this week.
Yep, we're going to go out and see that.
I'm excited about a week of that. I'm definitely, my plans there are going to be art museums and food.
Yes.
That's pretty much my goal.
Yes.
Definitely, I'm like, gosh, I think...
Got the drawing show.
I know,
coming up.
I've been thinking a lot about that because I want to have, of course, in my head, I'm like, I'm going to have the best work ever. It's going to be the best stuff.
That's good.
That's what I want. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? And then I definitely consider drawings I see around here and drawings I see, around town. I'm like, what could I do? And played with some ideas.
Right.
I think that's definitely a big focus of mine right now. I mean, I guess there won't be an Autry. Maybe I'll still attend it. So
yeah, that's changing.
That
right?
was, I think, not knowing that show wasn't going to happen this year was hard, because I think for me it was like when I was younger, it was such a life goal. So I'm glad I got to participate in it.
Right.
I hope they bring it back.
Yes, so they're going to kind of do something, but
I
not
don't
that.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, you know.
Life is full of surprises.
Yeah.
So.
Things like that happen, but
Mm-hmm.
then you have other things that open up that,
Yeah.
maybe some of those museum shows have kind of run their course.
Yeah, and I think the art world changes. So
It does.
sometimes you want nothing to ever change, but it's just going to do that.
Yes.
And you got to roll with it. You put your big girl shoes on and you keep plunging forward.
Well, and there's other opportunities, right?
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, even with that, and then I, not longer after that, I got a call to do an article with Art of the West magazine, and it's like, it's like you're like, one door closes, another one opens. But I'm excited about that.
You're really kind of just at the beginning of your career.
I hope so. I look forward to that.
I mean, you've been painting, what, 20 years probably?
Way too long.
Yeah, but it's probably 20.
Probably a late bloomer in some way. I've always been around, but in some ways a late bloomer. And I definitely feel like I appreciate Autry because I think people got to see my work in a better way and what I can do. And I feel seen, whereas I don't know if I felt as seen before. So that has been something I'm so grateful for. And it's just subtle stuff. But, when you're an artist, like, there's something important about you want people to see what you do for work and appreciate it. Like, there's something so important to that. I mean, of course, you want to appreciate your own work, but knowing that others like what you do, it's
right.
It's like, how can I describe that accurately without sounding conceited? But
well, I mean,
it's like I'm doing something right.
Yeah, it's a pat on the back that that you picked the right.
Gotta keep doing this.
Yeah, you picked the right path. Yeah, because you don't see it mostly.
Well, mostly you're in your studio by yourself, thinking, "What am I doing?"
Right, exactly.
Until you have like a show or an event and you get to meet with people and someone's like, "I love this painting. It's so nice to meet you." Because normally you sit there and like your whole brain is like wired to be critical, so that you work well. It's like, we shouldn't have done that brush stroke. You better fix that, or that's wrong. Paint that here, paint that there. No, that's not right. The color's off. You got to shift that a bit.
Right.
And this is like, our brain is just like wired to keep thinking those thoughts. Yes. And then how do you keep that from being personal? Like,
you don't, probably.
And so, but then you go and meet with other artists and your painting friends, and then it's like, or you hear someone who thinks just like you.
Yeah, of course they all do.
It's like, oh, I'm normal. In this world, we communicate, and it all makes sense.
Yeah, it's a different language.
We can talk about the difference between French ultramarine and ultramarine blue. And they know the difference.
And they understand what that means.
They understand the difference, It's like, gosh.
Oh, my God.
Now my husband's I think my husband sometimes is more informed with me, than me, which is weird. Like, so Mark Maggiore was in Italy, and he staged a scene out there of kind of where Sorolla was, how he did that painting of the beach and the sailors and the oxen pulling the boats out, and he kind of staged that scene there. And I was looking at the Instagram picture of it, and I showed my husband, like, Derek, what is this? Yeah, I'm like, if you know, you know. But it was just the live action scene of it, and he's like, "Oh, Sorolla." I'm like, "I love you, honey." He's
all in.
You can't just show someone at the grocery store and they know what, without seeing the painting or the artist name, what's going on there. So I'm like,
it's a small world.
Good for you. You're up to speed.
I married correctly.
I married well. He also, like, when you were in Cabo, like, he there was a lot of people who moved down there, but when they went home, they didn't bring their stuff with them. And sometimes they were artworks that he would save from hurricanes or stuff that people just forgot about. And he had, now I'm blanking on it, like a Walt Gonski watercolor that he had in his house. I'm like, you have Walt Gonski in here. I'm like, what's this about? And like some old like Ed Milp lithographs, seriographs, I think. That's what I thought that was just very nice. I didn't expect that. So he was a keeper.
Yeah, you go. And good art.
I'm like, oh, we're going to save this thing. This is great.
So what would you say to young artists that are kind of starting this path that you're trying to do? You have any words of wisdom?
I mean, for sure. Like when they visit the studio gallery, I tell them, be involved. I think that's the most important thing, because you're probably not just going to be represented by a gallery right off the bat. You need to show them you're sellable, you're working hard. Like, you have to show them, like, you're committed. Yeah. I'm like, what's the word? I say things like, get involved with, like, if you're there, sometimes they're local, and I'm like, go to Scottsdale Art School. Like, they have open studios, they have workshops, take the classes from the teachers, because they're a great way. I've had some teachers who've helped me get into some plein air shows. Yes. Plein air shows are also wonderful, because, like, some of them can be easier to get into, but they're not going to, bring you in if they don't know about you. So attend everything, go to the plein air shows, apply to the plein air shows, right? Participate, get to know the artists around, because that's where someone's going to be like, oh my gosh, we should have an art show together at this gallery. And then maybe you do that, and then the gallery says, hey, we'd love to represent you. Right. Applying to things like OPA shows can get you representation. Definitely making friends with the art world. And I think plein air painting is really great because it's so social. Mm-hmm. We all kind of go out and paint together, and I think that was, for me, a great way in. Yeah, being involved. Get a website too. And then
I would say get an Instagram site too.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm so behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, Instagram, and a website that looks like a little consistent. Like, sometimes they put up like their junior high drawings. This is my pencil drawing. This is my whale art. This is my beading. This is my baking. I'm like, just consolidate it a little bit but after, when you're young, I think you need, like, when I have, like, my high school students, it's like, I don't want them to be constricted yet. I just want them to enjoy painting first. Like, when you're young, high school, college, just be there, paint, create, let who you are come out, and be involved. And opportunities come through people you know.
They do.
Mm-hmm. Like, if they don't know you, if you don't have a social media presence and you're not involved in anything, I mean, you can't be too upset if you're not invited to do stuff.
Right.
Even with magazines, I felt like with them, like, in the beginning, it was my job to reach out to them, and not necessarily them, like, Amery,
be proactive.
We really want to put you in our magazine because you just happen to exist. So you have to be proactive.
Yes.
And thankful. I send thank you notes, and
those are important.
We do though. I still do thank you notes.
Yeah, those are important.
My husband reminds me, like, did you write a thank you note? I'm like, oh, they're gonna think I'm uncool. But
you don't have to write me a thank you note.
He's going to make me write you a thank you note. You're like, really?
Send me a nice little painting.
The only problem is sometimes a thank you note can go back and forth for a bit. And I'm like, oh no, they wrote a thank you note to my thank you note.
Yeah, I never rewrite thank you notes. I'll email maybe. But
I'll email thank you.
Emails.
It could be one of those, like, cards,
Yeah, those are fine.
Christmas ones, like, open up and someone dances.
Yeah, little Amery paintings coming down.
Something like that.
Well, we're excited that we get to represent you.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be wonderful. And, we don't take very many artists, so it's fun when you find, for me as a gallerist, that you find somebody that has their own voice, been doing it for a very long time. You selected me. It's not like it's true. I didn't select you.
Because I couldn't show in Arizona anymore.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, what better representation than you?
Well, thank you.
So I felt very nervous asking, and I'm like, I'm going to play it cool. So
it's like, what, are you interested? I'm like, yeah, of course I'm interested.
So he's nice.
You've earned all your,
It's definitely a lot of work.
Yeah, no.
So.
See, that's the thing artists don't understand, that first come to a gallerist, maybe you've been around a long time, it's the people who have earned it are usually going to be the ones that we're aware of. I mean, I've known of you for 10 years at least.
That doesn't mean I was ready 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's one of those things. It takes time, and then you can dictate the terms to art to gallerists like me and go, would you like to?
And it's, from all the things that went right and wrong in the past, they help make you who you are. And I feel so much more like secure in myself now than I even did 5 years ago. So that's been, something nice that only comes with time and experience.
That's right. No, that's true.
When you really know who you are.
No, that's very true.
But, and of course, I say that now, and tomorrow I'm like, I don't know who I am.
You'll be back in the studio. All right, very good. Well, let's go. I'm going to go show you the new space we've got.
I'm excited.
And
yes.
Thank you so much for coming down and doing
Anytime.
this and bringing me a great big painting.
Oh yes, it's a big boy.
I love big paintings because there's only so many of them an artist can do.
I feel like you're there too.
Yeah.
Like you're right in the scene. Yeah, they're fun to paint.
I love big paintings. Yeah, I would think they would be more interesting to paint. So.
They are, yeah. You it's hard to feel in the painting when it's 8x10.
Yeah, no.
Kind of like it's that big.
And they don't, and that's not daunting to you to do a big painting.
No.
Yeah.
I also have a huge easel. It helps.
Some people it is. Stephen Datz, I love you, but Stephen Datz, because he's such a perfectionist, that for a big painting for him could take 4 months.
Yeah, I mean, I could do bigger. It takes time, but you know, I also have to.
David Mickle did one for me. I asked him to do a big painting, and he did one, I think, like 4 by 8 feet or 9 feet. I was like, oh my God.
They also look really good shrunk down in magazines.
Yeah.
This looks like, whoa, she really has detail in there. And of course, it looks very different than when it's big.
But I do love big paintings because I know there's only so many an artist can do in their life.
Yeah, that one, I like this one I brought you. I think it's cool.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice painting.
It's like the canyon is kind of abstract. So I love how it's like modern and traditional at the same time.
Yeah, no, it definitely has a cool look. My first one. My first Amery. Well, it's not either, actually. I've sold some on the resale before.
No, I did not know that.
That
oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
This is not eBay.
So, no. Well, we do an auction, so we get pieces sometimes.
Oh, my, now I'm curious what those were. It's good to know.
Yep, it happens. Every artist, I don't care who you are, is going to come up on. It's going to come up on resale. I don't care who you are.
That's part of. I don't think that it's a bad thing. It's just sometimes it's a good thing. It's just like at least
it just is.
You're at a level where you can resell. So I mean,
that's right.
It's not going in a trash can. So yay.
No. Yeah, no.
There's some value there.
Yeah, there's definitely value.
I mean, some of my older work, maybe.
That's for all artists. That's for all artists.
They're out there. There's some very vintage college Amery Bohling stuff floating around.
Were they signed differently?
Oh yeah,
that's
definitely.
We'll need to know that.
Cursive, Amery Bohling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, dang it! How'd that go to Goodwill?
Yeah.
They're out there.
Yeah. Some of them. I've had some of my artists who have gathered up all those things out of their studio and burned them or.
Yeah, that's another thing you have to destroy art you don't like or don't want to keep. You can't just throw them away. It will end up at Goodwill.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No, they will.
They do.
So, or just hang on to them and let the historians decide. That's
I'm
a better thing.
You think about like those vintage. Sorry, I'm making you not end your podcast. I'm like, like there are some artist drawings. I wonder, did they really want these out for public view?
No, I think a lot of them don't. But it also tells the story.
I'm like, oh, that's the worst painting I ever did. So there it is in a museum.
But when you're gone, it doesn't matter, right?
I guess not.
No, it's beyond your control. It doesn't.
I'm thinking about my storage closet right now.
Yeah, the age is
what's in there.
Who knows? I mean, I personally don't think artists should destroy artwork. I think they should. It's part of. But I'm a historian as well, so.
I like to keep the good stuff, like milestones. I'm like, I learned something here, or I.
And do you keep a painting like that when it comes?
Yeah.
You go.
And I love seeing progress by painting, revisiting something.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, I used to paint it that way. Now I paint it this way. Much better.
Yeah. And is it a reminder? Or is it just something that you can go, because you know that monumental whatever it was, even though it was maybe just a...
I have it on my Instagram. There's a thing I did on Moran Point from when I first painted it, back when I first started painting the canyon, and then how I'm painting it nowadays, like with the Autry one.
Oh, very interesting.
And it's weird to see like what it looked like. Because like in the early days, I wasn't very good at contrast. They were all kind of very tonal and a little flat. And then it was like to see what it looks like now. It's like, oh, it's crazy.
Oh, that's good that you put that on your Instagram.
It's fun to see. Like, I like seeing the progress because I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right.
And you're not afraid to show, this is what I am.
I don't think they were bad in the beginning. They're just, they're more dynamic now.
You see that in all artists.
Yeah.
I can go up and down
the line.
And
I'll go back and I'll paint Moran again like I always do and see what it looks like in the future. So.
Well, what is your Instagram account if people want to find it?
It's easy. It's my name, Amery Bohling, and Bohling with an H.
Okay. And you're not related to the Bohling family that...
The Silversmiths?
Well, there's a...
I wish.
No. Well, there's those two. There's also... I think they spell it differently, though. Bohling... there's a bunch of trading posts called Bohling trading posts.
No.
Those were big time in the
There's definitely
60s,
people I would love to be related to.
And 80s. Bohling Flying Indian or something.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
There's like it's a very similar person who do like silver work, and I was like, can we be related?
Yeah, there's also that Bohling too.
No.
No. All right.
No. Farmers in Nebraska. That's us.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That somehow came from Norway at some point.
Germany,
Somewhere.
in England, I think.
those-
Yeah, I'm very mixed at this point. I think even
We
the
all
German
are.
sides are like maybe at best 25%.
Yeah.
But I guess the name is from
Deutsch.
yeah,
Yeah.
Bohling. I think
Bohling.
Bohling. I think it's how you said it.
Art Amery Bohling.
Bohling. Yes.
All right, I want to go show you this new space.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, thank you.
All right, you're welcome.